here with an episode of Primetime Sports with Larry Tougas of the West Ferris Trojans from North Bay, talking about the 2018 NOSSA Championships in Sault Ste. Marie. How are you today, Larry?
Good. Jay, yourself?
Good. Like so, we had mentioned off the show, and now talking on the show about the weather here. It's a little bit rainy here in Sault Ste. Marie, and the Korah Colts are probably preparing. I don't know if they're preparing indoors next door to the school or outdoors in the rain. But how's the weather down in North Bay?
The weather has been great. Actually, it was a pretty warm day today. It almost approached 9 degrees Celsius, and it rained all day, and it cleared up around 4 o'clock. So it gave us a good chance to have a good practice outdoors today. And actually, coaches felt that we got a lot of good work in, despite the weather being so nasty earlier in the day.
Totally understandable. And if it wasn't for our sponsors for the show, it would be hard to do these shows. So just give me a minute and we'll get right back into the show. So I'd just like to welcome everybody tonight. And our sponsor is Cheryl Ann of Expedia Cruise Ship Center of Sault Ste. Marie. Cheryl is a travel expert where you can find and book your next dream getaway for less. Exceptional savings. Value await you at Expedia Cruise Ship Center with Cheryl Ann Robinson in Sault Ste. Marie. Now, Larry, the biggest thing we talked about again off the show before we started is your record this year, and your 4 wins and 1 tie, and your tie was in the opening game. Then you beat the Patriots in the semifinals to make it to the finals. Can you talk a little bit about your season up to this far?
Well, Jay, we got off to not a very good start because we had trouble with getting our offensive line gelling, especially I had a couple of key injuries early in the season for some reason. I had a couple of kids banged up going into the season. So we really didn't gel. And in that first game against Schollard, we just didn't play well. Missed a lot of field goals, a lot of opportunities to score. Execution wasn't there, and we had to score 10 points in the last 2 minutes to end up tying Schollard Hall at the time, which I felt that if we played well, I thought we were the better team, but we just didn't. And then next 4 games we won quite easily. We started getting our offensive line tuned up, and next thing you know, that once we got that rolling, we got some offensively skilled people that can light up the scoreboard pretty quickly. So we started gelling and started putting points on the board and rode that the rest of the season.
And it just happens that like you made it to the you tied the Bears 22-22 in the opening game, and it ended up you beating them in the final to advance to NOSSA. So it was a little bit of redemption.
Well, it was, but we're the 2 best teams all season. They improved as well. They had some key individuals that really started to play well. A couple of young individuals that we had a lot of difficulty stopping in the first game and also in the last game. But again, we have a pretty experienced team. Some solid key people back from last year's championship team that allowed us to be able to ride that the entire season.
And like say in North Bay in 2017, the Trojans defeated the Colts 24-25 in the NOSSA Championships in North Bay. And I know your guys are going to be hungry being a NOSSA Championship, but Cora might have that little bit of edge of being hungrier just because they lost to you guys last year. Do you guys deal with how are the guys going to deal with that little bit of extra pressure coming to Sault Ste. Marie on Saturday?
Well, I've been to the Sioux many times, as you might well know, and I know it's a very difficult place to play. And I saw Cora play last year. I wasn't the head coach at the time; Mark Robertson was, and I took over from Mark, who actually took over from me in 2013. And I watched the game, and I was very impressed with Cora. I thought that they were a very good ball team, and that game, as you well know, could have went either way. Watching that game and watching the highlights and watching the film these past couple of weeks, we've been watching Cora for a little while, and we're not surprised to see them back in the final. I know they have some guys. We're pretty well aware of the fact is going down to the Sioux is an undertaking. There's been no North Bay team that's ever won a game in the Sioux in the last 40 years. So we're well aware of the task that we have an experienced team, Jay. Like, when you have an experienced team, we're not going in there with a bunch of rookies. They're well aware of what they have to do, and they tasted victory last year, so they know they can play with these guys. It's always a tough undertaking when you have to hit the road, different routine, different situation. But again, games won on the field and lost on the field. So we just got to execute.
And that's exactly like last weekend's show before the semifinal. I had Coach Andon on from Cora and Coach Bonden on from Lively. And, and when Coach Bonden said about coming into a hostile environment, and Coach Andon said not really a hostile environment, just diehard fans. And so I talked to Bonden just before he went on the field, and he goes, "It not hostile, but he goes because the fans are so passionate. It just the kids notice as they get on the field. But with that experience, it surely helps, doesn't it?"
Well, it does, but again, we're not going in there with a bunch of kids that are going to be wide-eyed and happy to be there. They've tasted victory, and they know how difficult this game's going to be. And if we were going down there with a bunch of grade 11 kids, I could understand that that's difficult. But our kids are pretty confident group of players, and they've been through a lot together. And the players and the crowd doesn't play. The bottom line is we got to play the team in white, and that's a tough opponent in itself. We don't worry about the crowd. Now,
you only have 4 days now left before you come into Sault Ste. Marie for the NOSSA Championship. As a coach, what is it on your list for the team heading into NOSSA final here in Sault Ste. Marie?
Well, we naturally our coaching staff has watched a lot of film. We've seen them play, so we've got a pretty good understanding breaking down what we need to do. Naturally, if you watch Cora enough, and I'm sure you've watched them enough, knowing that their ability to run the football is excellent. I saw that last year. Their line play is really good. Offense, they get off the ball really well. So if we can't stop the run, it's going to be a long day. Lively can attest to that. They just couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the backs. They couldn't tackle well. Our execution of tackling and getting off blocks and being able to stop their trio of running backs is an undertaking, and it's something we have to do in order to make sure we're successful on Saturday. Naturally, offensively, we have a lot of potential offensively too, and we got to execute. And if we can execute big plays, which is a big part of our offense all year. We could put points on the board also. So I think it'll boil down to which defense can stop the other team's offense better. That's the whole thing. Turnovers, actually, in any type of game like this, is always a big part of it also.
And with Jordan Robinson-Wright, probably one of the top quarterbacks in the city this year in Sault Ste. Marie, how do you contain an offense like the Colts offensive line on Saturday?
Well, I think that's something we're prepping for as we speak. Different alignments, giving them different looks and stuff like that. I think that's important. Again, we got a pretty stout defensive line, and I honestly think it's going to be a pretty good matchup between both teams that way. And it just depends on who wants to fight through pressure better than the other team. It's a real chess match when it comes to that type of stuff. Is that who's going to win that battle in the trenches?
And I talked to the coaches last week about these kids being high school student athletes, and when they have so much going on in their lives when it comes to jobs, girlfriends, studies, the main thing. How do you keep them focused on this goal, preparing for NOSSA?
Well, you know what, that's been the case forever. I've been coaching since 1985 in the high school system, so I've been coaching for a very long time. So, it hasn't changed. The kids, there is priorities with working, like you said, and things like that. But it's not hard to focus on a bunch of kids that are getting ready for NOSSA because it's the pinnacle. The Pupor Cup's a big deal around here. It's a big deal in the Sioux. To be able to hoist that thing and go to NOSSA is something our kids want to do again, and I'm sure the same bodes well for them. But again, like just practice today. I've been through a lot of NDA championships at games, and coming off those games, sometimes kids are a little bit, too loosey goosey. These kids were serious today, and they know the undertaking they have to do. And I was really impressed with practice today. I could tell that they were focused on trying to defeat Cora on Saturday.
And that's like when you say loosey goosey, is you have Cora going in undefeated, and with your tie, it still means you're undefeated. So you're two teams going in undefeated. So it's something they're high school, like going back to being high school kids, is just got to make sure that anybody can be beaten. And I don't mean either team, but it's just with being unbeaten going into the final. It's something you got to get rid of that loosey goosiness, right?
Absolutely. Again, experience helps. I know they have a very experienced team, Jay. We have a very experienced team, and both teams, it's easy. It's easy. I got a couple of kids that you really keep the keep the boat rolling really well, and I think it's just a matter of a lot of poise and a lot of players, stepping up at the right time, right? And I know I've seen a lot of these players from last year's team, so I know Cora is a very deep, experienced team that have been through a lot together. So I know they were very visibly upset last year about losing that game, and like most Sioux teams, they don't like losing very very much, but neither do we. We there's a lot of level of pride in our area too. We've been in the finals in North Bay since 1971, 45 of the last 48 years. So we have a lot of pride in our program, and we believe that we're a pretty strong area too for football.
And is there one or two players that who've stepped up and surprised you in this postseason as a coaching staff that you weren't expecting to as a player to contribute this much?
Well, no, like I said, we had an experienced team this year, Jay, and I think the people that we had come through, we had lost a key guy last year, Johnny Warren, to an ACL injury at the start of the season, so he didn't play. So he's just coming into his own. So that's somebody they're going to have to watch. He's very electric in terms of a player offensively, but it's hard to pinpoint because we have several skilled people that have really made great strides. Like our 6'5" receiver James Piper has caught numerous touchdowns. We got a multitude of weapons that make it really difficult to basically concentrate. I don't think I've gone into an NOSSA game with this many weapons. We've always had a couple of key guys that you could focus on, but just like Cora, you look at it, if you start focusing just on 25 and six runs really well. You can't really focus on one guy at our team. Also, we've got some key guys that in different positions that can really hurt you.
And you had mentioned I've been coaching since 1985, and no matter the outcome of the game, and again, we all know what the outcome of the game each team wants is they want to go to Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
of course. But as a coach, what do you explain to these players and young men that a successful season has been up to this point, and from your point of view?
Well, since August 15th when we broke camp, Jay, our first priority was we prioritize things, to go undefeated in the regular season, to finish in first, and to go, then the next thing is to win the NDA championship, then to win NOSSA, and to go to Austin and win. They went to Austin last year and got beat. So a lot of these kids in their last year, we've got probably about 40-50% of our team that's gone next year, and a lot of the key individuals, just like probably they do, that want to make that next step, right? And for Cora, it's naturally to win the NOSSA title to go to OSSA. For us, it's to win an OSSA title, but things are you can't win one without winning the NOSSA title first, and we take it step by step because. We're not satisfied until we get what we wanted to, and this is the goal these kids set from the start of the year.
And officers to find the goal, but as of right now, there's like I say, there's no goal. The next goal is the next game, and that's it. And then you look after that game to the next one, right?
Absolutely, like I said before, this game will be a real test. And I told the kids that I've challenged them this year that no team in North Bay since Scholar Hall in 1986, I think it was, or 87, have won a NOSSA title in the Sioux. There's a big difference. We've won in 91, we won, and in last two of the last 4 years we've won on home soil. Now, can we win one on Sioux soil? I told that's the legacy you guys have created. You won 3 straight NDA championships, a NOSSA title. Can you win one in the Sioux? That's a big undertaking, and I said that's a legacy that you could tell a lot of people have never done at our school and in our city. So is it going to be tough? Absolutely, but anything good is always tough to get. If it was easy, anybody could do it. So, and nobody's done it since 1987. So,
And then that's pressure on the kids, but as a coach, it puts a little bit of pressure there to get them prepared for that goal, right?
there's always pressure. Anytime you take a job, anywhere you coach, the pressure is always there. Like especially at our school because we've had so much success last 50 years. So it goes with the territory. It's a thing that my coaching staff relishes. I got a lot of ex-players that play and coach in our program, and so they understand the tradition that West Ferris has, and I'm sure that Tom knows our tradition pretty well, just like I know his. And we won our first. I won my first NOSSA title in North Bay against Cora, and lost the next year on the last play of the game. So I've got a lot of history with this type of situation. Tommy knows he's a very good coach, and they've done a very good program, and it should be a great game.
And I always say, and we touch base on it over the last questions about them being high school athletes, but it comes down to they're high school kids. So it depends on what mindset, doesn't matter either team, depends on what mindset comes in and hits that field that day. And that's going to determine the outcome of the game, right?
They're kids, and sometimes kids will make mistakes that you'll send your head spinning. And just like I said, that first game, if you would have saw how we played, like we would have never, we would have never been able to contend for a NOSSA title at that time of the season. But it was September 14th, and like I told the kids, the road of success is always under construction. So, we just took it day by day, and it's always good to start the season off a little bit. Like last year's team 2 years ago, they lost their first game to Scholar and won the NOSSA title. So, it's all part of how you build your program and how you talk to them and try to tell them that one game doesn't define you. A season will define you. And right now we're at the end of we're getting to the end of our season, so this is of course a defining moment.
And like when I talked to Coach Bonham from Lively and Coach Annette last weekend, as a coach, a lot of times when you say define them, they don't realize it maybe 5 years from now when they're come watch a football game or through the arena or the mall, and they see you and then they go, I know what you meant. And sometimes it takes that long, but they realize eventually how it defines and how it affects their lives, right?
Well, I watched Cora walk off the field last year. I could tell how visibly upset they were and stuff like that. And I told our coaching staff then and there, I said that'll, if we ever have the chance to play those guys again, that'll be a different team come next year. And they've been feeling it all year. So, again, kudos to them for making it back, because it's always not easy in a suit to get back to that spot. But they are, I've watched them on film for a couple of games now, and they are definitely a really good football team.
And I asked this question last week, and both coaches, and I know not beat around the bush, but they wouldn't give me a direct answer. And I understood why, and you probably know the question, but when your players walk out to center to the coin flip with the referees and facing Cora, well, if you had the flip in your choice, what would you pick? Or will you tell me?
What would you pick?
Catch or receive to begin the game?
Well, you know what? Again, that all depends on weather. That all depends on the situation. I always talk to my coaches. We have a planned strategy all the time. And of course, if I told you the strategy, they wouldn't be a strategy anymore. It wouldn't be a thing. But we've done it all year, and being the road team, and you know what, we have a tendency to always do the same thing. But again, when you play Cora, that strategy might be a little different in terms of what we usually do, just because of the nature of them. So again, it's something we have to decide on when we play on Saturday. And what I'll do is I'll make a decision based on weather. Like which end I would like to say if there's a heavy wind and stuff like that. So I don't like to tip my hand just yet, because it could change. I could say, listen, we like to defer and not do so. Like I'm sure Tom would feel the same way when he's asked that question. It just depends on. But I know their offense is pretty strong. But again, we have choice to start the game off, so I'll leave it at that.
So I'm guessing, and I'm going to say I'm more of a hockey guy than football. Like I enjoy and really like football. So I'm guessing in the football coach's handbook, the first question is how to answer a coin flip question, because all three questions are almost exactly the same, or answers. I understand that, but it's nice to ask because you never know, say, what a coach feels. Well,
I'll be honest with you. We usually defer, but I'm not going to say we're going to defer on Saturday, because you know what? you defer. You're putting up a pretty good offense. That might get up 7-0 pretty quickly if they like. I know last year they kicked off, like Cora took the ball to start the game off. They marched all the way downfield and scored. And I looked over at my buddy and I went, oh man, they look like the Russian Red Army when they came out. They like piff paff poof, like they were in the end zone. But a few adjustments here and a few things like that, things change. But it just depends on how a coach feels. Like we have a strategy and we talk about it as coaches, and come Saturday morning, we'll probably, have a feeling that we want to do something. And really, I don't know what it could be, but it'll fall in my hands, Saturday morning.
So when I do the post game interview, I'll ask you the coin flip question again. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to tell you, and give you an explanation of what I did.
Okay, there you go.
Maybe how stupid of a move it was.
Well, Larry, I can't thank you enough for taking your time out this evening as you're preparing and watching game film for Saturday's NOSSA final against Korah Colts at 2:00 in Sault Ste Marie.
Yeah.
Good luck on Saturday, November 10th.
Thank you very much, Jay. Pleasure.
And I'd like to let everybody know there will be a big announcement coming from us tomorrow morning regarding the NOSSA game. So stay tuned to our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram pages for that big announcement, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you.